For years, I served the darkest side of spirituality. From the age of 8, I was trained in black magic, participated in occult rituals, and even had a face-to-face encounter with Satan himself. I thought I had power, control, and influence, until I discovered something that shattered everything I believed. That was when I encountered a force no ritual could break, a protection that not even the most powerful attacks from my coven could penetrate. But the ultimate revelation came when I faced death. Literally, I left my body, saw the darkness approaching to claim me, and then something happened, something no Satanist would ever dare to admit. I saw the one I feared the most. I saw Jesus Christ, and what he told me changed my life forever. What I discovered after that encounter might change everything you think you know about the spiritual world. If you've ever wondered whether an invisible war is happening, if dark forces truly operate in our world, or if there's a way out for those who have gone too deep, stay with me until the end of this video. Many people who watch our videos aren't subscribed yet, so before we continue, click the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any life-changing content. And tell me in the comments, have you ever had a spiritual experience that made you question everything? I'll be reading your stories. Now, get ready, because what you're about to hear might change your life. I was just 8 years old when I first saw something others couldn't. Dark shadows lurking in corners, whispering voices that seemed to echo from nowhere, and figures that shifted through walls like smoke. At first, I thought everyone experienced the world this way. It felt almost natural, a strange yet oddly captivating part of my life. My parents dismissed it as imagination or childhood fantasies, but deep down, I knew something was different about me. Those shadowy presences soon realized I could see them, and that realization changed everything. They began reaching out, tempting me closer with whispers of secrets and power, drawing me into their unseen world. One evening, as I sat alone in my dimly lit bedroom, a presence more intense than I'd ever encountered before surrounded me. It wasn't frightening, not initially. Instead, it was strangely comforting, seductive even, whispering gently that I was special, chosen for greatness. It introduced itself simply as a friend, promising that I was destined for incredible things. All I had to do was trust it. The warmth of that voice resonated through my young heart, filling me with curiosity and a desperate need to learn more. I had no idea then that this friend was anything but benevolent, that its true intentions were darker than I could have imagined. Soon after that encounter, spirits began teaching me secrets, whispered instructions on magical rituals, incantations that held strange power, and methods to command the very shadows themselves. I felt important, extraordinary, as if I'd discovered a hidden layer of reality that no one else could touch. My innocent curiosity quickly evolved into deep fascination. Night after night, hidden beneath blankets, I experimented with spells they'd taught me. Lights flickered, mirrors cracked, and shadows danced at my command. The more I learned, the more addicted I became to this invisible force that filled me with intoxicating power, making me believe I controlled my own destiny. By the time I turned 13, the spirits insisted I needed something more, a real community, a family who understood the power I wielded. They guided me to a secret gathering, a coven meeting deep in the forest, hidden by ancient trees. The air was thick with incense, chants reverberated through the night, and masked figures stood silently in a circle awaiting my arrival. My heart raced, fear mixing with exhilaration, as the group leader stepped forward, a silver knife gleaming in his hand. He spoke of bonds that could never be broken, initiation rituals that would seal my fate forever. My palms grew sweaty, but my need to belong, to harness even greater power, overcame my fears. That night, under a pale moon glowing coldly above, I participated in a blood initiation. Pain shot through my palm as the knife cut into my skin, mixing my blood with the others in a silver chalice. Words were chanted in an ancient language, binding me to the coven, sealing my allegiance to darkness. At 13, I'd irrevocably stepped into a realm I couldn't yet comprehend. The coven celebrated my initiation, welcoming me warmly, praising my abilities, affirming my importance. For the first time, I felt genuinely understood, accepted without judgment. Little did I know I'd just signed a spiritual contract that would consume my innocence and nearly destroy my soul. Did this capture what you envisioned, or would you like me to modify anything or expand further? At 16, I had grown powerful within the coven, mastering dark rituals that would terrify most adults. Yet, nothing prepared me for what happened that unforgettable night. We had gathered for a ceremony unlike any other, one that promised direct contact with our true master, a figure whispered about in awe and fear, Satan himself. My pulse quickened, adrenaline surged through my veins, and anticipation built like electricity in the air. The elders spoke of him reverently, claiming he would soon arrive to guide our coven toward its ultimate purpose. Though I'd long been accustomed to interacting with dark entities, nothing could have prepared me for what was about to unfold. The night was unusually dark, devoid of stars, as if even nature recoiled from our intentions. We stood in a perfect circle around an altar carved with symbols that seemed to pulsate with malevolent energy. A sense of dread began to claw at my heart, whispering faintly that perhaps I was venturing too far. But pride quickly silenced those doubts. After all, I believed myself invincible, special, destined for greatness. Candles flickered violently, casting distorted shadows across the faces around me, and the chants grew louder, deeper, resonating through the very earth beneath our feet. Suddenly an unnatural silence fell, absolute and suffocating, as if all existence itself paused to bear witness. From within the altar, darkness coalesced into a form that defied description, yet exuded undeniable authority and terror. Before me stood Satan, not as a red-skinned caricature, but as an overpowering presence wrapped in a cloak of profound darkness, his eyes gleaming like smoldering embers that pierced my soul. Every hair on my body stood erect, chills swept down my spine, and for the first time, genuine fear gripped me entirely. The power radiating from him was both mesmerizing and horrifying, captivating my senses yet paralyzing my mind. This was not some lesser spirit or illusion. This was an entity whose mere existence made humanity feel small and insignificant. His gaze swept slowly over us, finally settling upon me. My breath caught sharply in my throat, my heart thundering painfully against my ribs. "Renee." His voice rumbled deep and commanding, vibrating through my bones. "You are ready for a greater mission." He spoke with chilling authority, laying out a new directive for our coven, a focused assault on Christians, especially church leaders who posed the greatest threat to his dominion. His words resonated with hatred, power, and malice, emphasizing how crucial our work was to his plans. He instructed us meticulously, explaining how we must deploy astral projection, spiritual curses, and relentless attacks on those who called themselves followers of Christ. I listened, conflicted yet captivated, realizing for the first time that our battles weren't merely spiritual games, but targeted warfare. Part of me felt sickened by the idea, sensing deeply that I was about to cross an irreversible boundary. However, my fear of disappointing him, this entity I'd believed granted me significance, kept me silent. With every instruction, his intense presence tightened around us, binding our minds with dark commitments. He concluded by promising rewards beyond imagination if we succeeded and unimaginable suffering if we failed. The oppressive weight of responsibility, coupled with his sinister gaze, confirmed my worst fears. I had become a soldier in a spiritual war far darker than I'd imagined. When he finally disappeared, fading back into shadow, the coven erupted in ecstatic celebration, chanting praise to the one they revered as their dark lord. Yet I stood frozen, shaken to my core by the gravity of what had just occurred. Despite my initial enthusiasm for power, an uneasy dread had rooted deep within me, whispering a chilling truth I'd tried desperately to ignore. I had just met pure evil face to face, and I was now bound to carry out its twisted will. Our coven began carrying out Satan's orders immediately, launching spiritual assaults aimed at Christians, particularly pastors and missionaries. We believed our dark powers could overcome any opponent. After all, I had seen firsthand the effectiveness of our rituals. Confidently, I led astral projection attacks, placing curses designed to destroy ministries, weaken believers' faith, and disrupt entire congregations. But almost immediately, something strange began to happen, something we hadn't anticipated at all. Our spells, which had effortlessly shattered lives before, repeatedly failed when aimed at certain believers. This phenomenon baffled me, leaving me frustrated, angry, and above all, profoundly curious about what force could possibly resist the darkest magic we possessed. One night, determined to understand this mysterious resistance, I astral projected to the home of a pastor we'd unsuccessfully attacked multiple times. Floating invisibly, I positioned myself in the corner of his bedroom, ready to unleash spiritual havoc. As I gathered energy, however, I noticed something peculiar, a luminous blue dome of pure light surrounding the pastor and his wife. It wasn't static or weak. Instead, it pulsed gently, humming with a serene but powerful vibration unlike anything I'd ever encountered. It radiated peace, warmth, and an indescribable sense of protection that made my dark spells evaporate instantly upon contact. Stunned, I moved closer, trying desperately to penetrate this shield, only to feel my powers vanish completely, rendered utterly useless. The sensation was shocking, like stepping into sunlight after living in eternal darkness. The dome seemed alive, somehow aware of my presence, but indifferent, unshaken by the darkness I'd summoned. From within its protective glow, I heard faint murmurs, prayers being whispered passionately, lovingly, fearlessly. Each word strengthened the barrier around them, causing my attempts to weaken, then crumble entirely. For the first time, doubt crept into my mind. Could these simple prayers truly hold such extraordinary power that even our most potent curses dissolved in their presence? My heart pounded with confusion, anger, and growing wonder as the realization sank in. There was a force far superior to the dark magic I'd embraced. Returning to my body that night, I was deeply shaken. I couldn't sleep, haunted by the image of that impenetrable blue dome, the whispers of earnest prayer still echoing in my ears. Driven by curiosity bordering on obsession, I tested other Christians, only to repeatedly encounter the same protective barrier, always appearing as a dome of brilliant blue light, unyielding and impenetrable. Yet, intriguingly, not every Christian possessed this shield. It surrounded only those actively engaged in heartfelt prayer, those who seemed to genuinely rely on their faith. Slowly, I began understanding a truth that terrified me. Real believers had access to an invisible yet tangible force that far exceeded our dark powers. Despite my loyalty to the Coven, these experiences ignited a quiet rebellion in my heart, forcing me to question everything I thought I knew. If the God these people worshipped could protect them so powerfully from attacks orchestrated directly by Satan himself, could their faith be true? Could their God, whom I'd always mocked as weak, actually possess power that surpassed the darkness I'd pledged myself to? These troubling questions tormented my every waking hour, undermining the very foundation of my beliefs. Still, pride prevented me from openly sharing my doubts with the Coven, leaving me isolated, torn between fear of betraying darkness and a compelling desire to understand the secret behind this remarkable power. The conflict intensified with each failed assault. I watched helplessly as believers continued living joyful, unshaken lives despite our relentless attacks. My faith in darkness began to crack, revealing glimpses of something brighter, more genuine, hidden beneath. Although I still clung desperately to the illusion of control, deep within I knew change was inevitable. Confronted repeatedly by a force greater than my own, I could no longer deny the truth slowly dawning on me. Darkness might wield terror and deception, but there existed a far superior power capable of protecting ordinary people from even our strongest magic. The protective dome wasn't merely an obstacle. It was evidence of a spiritual authority far greater than Satan could ever hope to attain. The more I experienced this strange protective power surrounding true believers, the deeper my confusion grew. Internally, I wrestled between loyalty to the darkness that had given me status, identity, and power, and an undeniable curiosity about the force protecting those I'd been taught to hate. My sleepless nights multiplied, haunted by visions of that impenetrable blue dome, whispers of prayers that seemed gentle yet infinitely powerful. Despite the coven's reassurances, the nagging feeling that I might have dedicated my life to a lie began to consume me. Finally, driven to desperation, I did something I'd once believed unthinkable. I dared to question the existence and authority of Satan openly, seeking clarity about who truly ruled the spiritual realm. That night, alone in my bedroom, trembling and terrified, I whispered into the darkness, "Jesus, if you're real, prove yourself. Show me that your power is greater." As the words left my lips, the temperature in the room dropped sharply, shadows thickening into forms that radiated hatred and menace. My heart pounded violently, panic surged through me. Instantly, I realized my challenge hadn't gone unnoticed. Demonic presences descended upon me in furious rage, snarling accusations, cursing my betrayal, their chilling voices echoing threats of eternal torment. Paralyzed with terror, unable to move or breathe, I felt helpless against the darkness I'd once commanded. In their fury, they stripped away the illusion of my supposed power, leaving me utterly defenseless and vulnerable. In that horrific moment, with darkness pressing in on every side, desperation drove me to cry out again, this time without arrogance or challenge, but purely from my brokenness and genuine need. "Jesus, please, help me!" I screamed the words with raw desperation, not even fully certain I believed them, yet praying they might reach a power strong enough to rescue me. Suddenly, something extraordinary happened. A brilliant light burst into my room, piercing through every shadow, driving back the demonic presences instantly. Warmth and peace enveloped me, unlike anything I'd ever experienced. In that instant, I knew beyond doubt Jesus had answered. He was real, alive and infinitely more powerful than the darkness I'd devoted my life to serving. As the light expanded, it filled not only my room but my entire being, dissolving years of darkness and torment. It felt like stepping into the sunlight after a lifetime in shadows, pure, cleansing, and indescribably loving. For the first time, my eyes opened to the stark truth of who I'd been and what I'd served. The shame of realizing I'd been deceived was heavy, yet strangely liberating. No longer burdened by the illusion of power, I surrendered completely, acknowledging the truth that I needed forgiveness, redemption, and true salvation. My heart filled with joy and relief. Tears poured freely down my face, washing away years of accumulated guilt and pain. That profound encounter changed everything. I spent hours on my knees, confessing openly every dark act I'd ever committed, every life I'd harmed, every soul I'd misled. Instead of feeling condemned, I experienced an overwhelming sense of acceptance and grace, a certainty that my past no longer defined me. For the first time, I understood what genuine freedom felt like. The darkness that had gripped my life since childhood dissipated entirely, leaving only the comforting presence of a Savior who knew every terrible secret I'd hidden, yet still chose to love me deeply and unconditionally. From that night onward, my allegiance shifted irrevocably. No longer a captive of darkness, I embraced Jesus Christ wholeheartedly, dedicating my life to discovering and sharing the immense power of His love. My past no longer seemed shameful. Instead, it became evidence of his transformative grace, a testimony to his boundless mercy, capable of reaching even those trapped in deepest darkness. Despite knowing the coven would seek vengeance, my fear vanished entirely, replaced by newfound courage grounded in unwavering faith. My journey out of darkness had just begun, but already I knew that surrendering to Jesus marked the turning point of my entire existence, forever altering my understanding of true power, freedom, and eternal hope. Not long after my dramatic escape from darkness, I faced a heartbreaking personal tragedy, a miscarriage that shattered my newfound peace and joy. As doctors wheeled me into surgery to save my life, I felt an eerie detachment from my body, a strange calmness settling over me despite the urgency around me. Suddenly, the hospital lights blurred, voices faded into a distant echo, and an overwhelming darkness swallowed everything I knew. My heartbeat grew faint, my breathing shallow, until all at once I was free, floating effortlessly above my physical form. Below, medical staff scrambled frantically, unaware that I hovered above, calmly observing their futile attempts to revive me. At first, confusion dominated my thoughts, but quickly a terrifying realization dawned. I had died. Panic seized me. My previous encounters with the spiritual world flooded my mind, bringing fear that I'd finally face judgment for my dark past. A sense of dread overwhelmed me as darkness enveloped everything once again. But this darkness felt different, like a tunnel that stretched endlessly ahead. In the distance, however, a single point of brilliant, mesmerizing light began gently beckoning to me. Drawn irresistibly forward, fear and uncertainty gradually gave way to curiosity and an inexplicable longing. The closer I moved toward the radiant glow, the more deeply peace flooded my soul, calming all fear. As I entered fully into the light, warmth and serenity surrounded me, unlike anything I'd ever experienced on earth. Instantly, I knew exactly where I was, standing at the entrance to heaven itself. And waiting there, bathed in indescribable radiance, was Jesus. His presence filled me with awe. Every fear vanished instantly in his compassionate gaze. I expected judgment, condemnation for years of serving darkness, yet his expression conveyed only love, boundless grace, and profound understanding. Without speaking a word, he embraced me gently, allowing waves of unconditional acceptance and overwhelming joy to wash over me. In his presence, my entire past became irrelevant, completely forgiven and utterly redeemed. Jesus gently led me deeper into the breathtaking beauty of this heavenly place. Colors seemed alive, vibrant beyond human comprehension, and music floated through the air, pure, joyful, and infinitely peaceful. Around us stood countless others, faces radiant with happiness, smiling warmly as if they'd always known me. Jesus turned toward me, his voice soft yet powerfully reassuring. "Renee, you are loved beyond your imagination. Your past cannot separate you from my love, but you must now choose. Remain here in eternal peace or return to earth and fulfill a mission only you can accomplish." His words resonated deeply, carrying profound weight, yet offering freedom of choice. Instantly, my heart filled with a sense of purpose, unlike anything I'd previously known. Part of me longed desperately to stay, forever wrapped in heavenly bliss, free from pain, guilt, and earthly struggles. But in Jesus' gaze, I saw clearly that my story wasn't yet complete, that my experiences, both dark and light, were meant for something greater. My journey through darkness had uniquely prepared me to bring hope and deliverance to others lost in similar despair. Realizing this, clarity flooded my mind, courage filled my heart, and gratitude overwhelmed me. Despite the comfort and beauty of heaven, I knew my mission was to return, sharing the incredible love and forgiveness I'd received. With deep reverence and a profound sense of renewed commitment, I made my decision. Jesus smiled warmly, nodding gently in understanding and approval, as if he'd known my choice all along. "I will be with you always," he promised softly. As his words echoed through my soul, I felt myself drawn back through the tunnel, gradually reconnecting with the earthly realm. Soon, distant sounds of hospital equipment, urgent voices, and my own heartbeat became clearer, louder, closer. My eyes fluttered open, breathing returned painfully but steadily, and I knew instantly I'd been given a second chance, one infused with heavenly purpose and guided by an unstoppable divine love. Returning from the afterlife encounter transformed everything about how I viewed the world. My old life, the darkness, the fear, and the misguided pursuit of power seemed impossibly distant, like memories from another lifetime altogether. Yet those memories never fully faded. Instead, they became powerful tools, reminders of where I'd been and the incredible mercy I'd received. Each morning, as sunlight filtered through my windows, gratitude overwhelmed me, bringing tears of joy as I realized how profoundly different my life had become. Instead of darkness and dread, peace and purpose now defined every breath I took, guiding every decision, shaping every moment. I had not only been saved from death, but given a clear, unmistakable mission to share my journey openly, boldly, and without hesitation. Embracing this new purpose, I began reaching out to others still trapped in the darkness I'd once known intimately. At first, it felt intimidating to speak openly about my past, to admit publicly how deeply I'd been deceived, but the impact of my testimony quickly outweighed any fears. Churches and community groups invited me to speak, eager to understand the spiritual battles unfolding invisibly around them. I didn't shy away from honesty, describing vividly the dark powers I'd once wielded, the hatred I'd held, and the emptiness that had consumed my heart. Every time I spoke, people listened intently, eyes wide with amazement and sometimes skepticism, yet always moved deeply by the undeniable evidence of Jesus' transformative power. But my greatest passion quickly became helping children, innocents who, like myself at age 8, might already be exposed to darkness without anyone recognizing the danger. Visiting schools, youth groups, and shelters, I openly shared my childhood experiences, carefully illustrating how easily darkness disguises itself as appealing, innocent curiosity. I poured my energy into helping kids discern spiritual deception, equipping them with faith, courage, and the tools to resist evil from the earliest age possible. Witnessing young lives changed by these efforts brought profound fulfillment, affirming the clarity of my calling. Every child protected from darkness felt like a victory, a step closer to redeeming the painful years I'd spent blindly serving evil. Writing became another powerful avenue to reach even greater numbers, allowing my story to travel far beyond places I could physically visit. My books detailed every step of my journey, fearlessly describing the reality of spiritual warfare, the deceptive nature of darkness, and most importantly, the infinitely greater power of Jesus' love and forgiveness. Letters flooded in from readers across the globe, many sharing personal stories eerily similar to my own, thanking me for giving them courage to break free from deception and embrace true freedom in Christ. Each letter reminded me of the power embedded in my testimony, strengthening my resolve to continue writing, speaking, and boldly proclaiming hope to those desperately trapped in darkness. Though remnants of the old coven occasionally resurfaced, angry threats, attempts to discourage or silence me, their powerlessness only confirmed the truth I now held firmly. Darkness could never again claim authority over my life. Instead, these attempts served as powerful reminders of God's protection, reaffirming that my mission carried divine purpose and unstoppable power. Facing such opposition, I prayed fervently, feeling anew the protective presence that had once mystified me, now my constant shield. This assurance allowed me to speak even more courageously, knowing fully that no threat could derail the calling God had placed within my heart. Looking back on my entire journey, from darkness, deception, and near-death experiences to redemption, renewal, and a purposeful life, filled me with awe and gratitude beyond words. Today, I live each moment fully devoted to this singular mission: to expose darkness, empower others with spiritual truth, and proclaim boldly that no soul is too far gone for the transformative power of Jesus Christ. My story isn't merely mine alone. It belongs to every person still searching, hurting, or trapped in spiritual deception. As long as breath remains within me, I will share my testimony without fear, passionately guiding others toward the incredible hope, freedom, and joy I've found, a life redeemed by grace and anchored eternally in divine purpose. My story is proof of one undeniable truth: no one is beyond the reach of God's grace. I was initiated into the occult as a child, served the kingdom of darkness for years, and even met Satan face to face. Yet Jesus still rescued me. No matter how far you've gone, no matter how trapped you feel, there is a way back. I am living proof of that. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt the presence of something greater, something beyond this world? Have you had a spiritual experience that made you question everything? Share your story in the comments. I'll be reading them. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss more powerful, life-changing testimonies like this one. If this story spoke to you, check out the next video on your screen. You won't want to miss it.